We have with us JBM Auto joining in this morning. Nishant Arya, Vice Chairman and Managing Director at JBM, joins in. Nishant, hi, it's Samina joining in. What a morning to wake up to, right? Your stock is up 8%. The big focus for JBM Auto has been your electric bus segment. Before we go into what you stand to gain, you've time and again mentioned that this is a key growth driver for your company. Currently, as we see it, what percentage of your top line comes from e-buses?
35% of the top line for FY24 was e-buses.
And now, as we look at the government, formalizing this, how do you plan to participate in this scheme that's been launched? Are there any active bids or tenders that you're focusing on to supply electric buses under the scheme?
No, so I think definitely. So today also we are at about 35 to 40% market share with our current order book and projects executed on ground across the country. So definitely we would be looking forward to harness this opportunity because about 40% plus of the whole scheme of 10,900 crores has been allocated for 14,028 buses, which is the most substantial part. And at the same time, it's quite heartening to see that new segments of electric trucks and e-ambulances have also been introduced here. Plus, a very big part, which would play a very critical role of a catalyst, is that 72,000 chargers which will be set up would reduce the range anxiety of the end customer quite substantially because we are selling to private customers and to different STUs. So I think it would play a very critical role in evolving the market.
Are there any already, because a lot of this was in the works for the last couple of months, if not longer, are there any outstanding bids or tenders with the government on this?
No, so not with respect to this scheme, because the scheme was not in place. So I think all the 9 cities were waiting for the scheme to be in place for them to come up with tenders. But definitely the PM e-bus Seva programs are something which we are all looking forward to. And as JBM, we were lucky to see that in the previous PM e-bus Seva program 1, we got 65% market share. So definitely we are quite focused and gung-ho on such kind of projects as they'll be instrumental in defining the electric bus roadmap for the future, and we are totally geared up for that.
Mr. Arya, Tamanna here, good morning. Just, trying to understand that the allocation is 10,900 crores for 2 years, and it includes two-wheelers, three-wheelers, buses, ambulances, which are hybrid, electric trucks, etc. So as a share of the pie, and sentimentally, of course, it's huge for the industry, but as a share of the pie, how much actually trickles down to a JBM Auto?
So definitely today we are at 35 to 40% market share, and the bus allocation is about 4,391 crores. So we would be targeting to at least maintain it, but ideally grow further than 40%.
Right. Nishant, just one quick question. You had set out, rather met your 5,000 crore revenue guidance for the last year. Now with this announcement getting formalized, would you go back to the drawing room and review your guidance?
So this year's guidance is about 6,500 crores.
Because what happens is risk to that with this scheme?
No, because actually the lead time for buses to come on road for any such project is at least 9 months to a year. So it would be benefiting us in the first half of the next financial year. But in this year, I think the transition time for the business execution is what would be required.
Nishant, stay on because we intend to now understand the whole situation with the 2 key players, because we are also joined in this conversation by Mr. Mahesh Babu, CEO of Switch Mobility. Mr. Babu, good having you. Thanks for joining in. We were talking to Nishant Arya, who is of course a very happy man. I'm sure you are a happy man too. Just tell us from your perspective, was this a much needed shot in the arm and better than anticipated, or is this in line with what you had estimated, the incentives that have been given?
I think firstly, we have to thank the cabinet for approving the PM E-Drive with a 10,900 crore outlay. It was expected this because the industry and Ministry of Heavy Industries, Niti Aayog, and all of us have been working to a program which had the continuity from FAME 2 and also look at how to allocate the funds suitable to the segment which is more needed. I'm happy that that e-bus have been covered. I'm happy that trucks have been covered with an incentive of 500 crore. The charging infrastructure have been covered. New segments like ambulance have come in, and the much awaited PM e-bus Seva payment security mechanism have been announced. So by and large, I would say it's a very forward-looking scheme for the industry, and we are all very happy, thankful to the government for taking this forward.
Now, the assumption or the assessment seems to be, Mr. Babu, that demand-side incentives are being weighed down and companies are getting the PLI benefits, if you will, happening. So, could you tell us, is there a demand-side incentive for in this current thing? Because the notification doesn't quite carry anything to that effect.
See, the demand side incentive is being talked about, let's say 3,435 crore for the buses, which is for 5 years. And then this comes as a PM e-bus Seva consideration, right? And if you look at two-wheelers, you look at three-wheelers, it's talk about supporting 24 lakh vehicles in the scheme. Two-wheelers, about 3 lakh for the three-wheelers and about 14,000 e-buses in the scheme. So it clearly defines the segment in which it will support. And this is based on the experience of the industry in the past. And I would say that each and every new scheme which is coming to support electric mobility is discussed with industry, and all of them are based on the learning of the past and how to support the right segment in which need to be done. So I think all the voices have been heard and the scheme has been defined in such a way to address many of the needs, including ambulances and other new segments which has come forward.
You know, this question I have actually both for Mr. Babu and Mr. Arya, but let me come to Mr. Arya first on it. That since this is the third version of a scheme to really push electric mobility, how would you look at it comparatively, considering that the first two had a little bit of issues in incentives, gauging those incentives? The government also then had to crack down on some players. There were some cases of misuse. Do you think it's a clearer situation at this point? I'll come to you, Mr. Arya, first on this.
No, I think it seems to be quite clear. Definitely, devil lies in the details. So we would like to understand once the fine print comes across. But whatever is visible now, I think it's much clearer. Plus, there has been a very substantial incentive given for the testing agencies to develop the infrastructure, which was very important because multiple new technologies are coming in right now. So for those technologies to be adopted, we need enablers like these which can turn around the testing, validation and homologation of the vehicles very fast to have a faster time to market. Parallelly, the PSM, which has been much awaited, I think is something which is very substantial and it will be a game changer. And I would compare this to the solar sector. So like in solar sector, you have Solar Energy Corporation of India, which is there, and that redefined the whole country's mechanism because it was able to institutionalize and give a very good comfort to investors, OEMs, and the whole industry to invest and grow. And that's how we're going to 500 gigawatt. I think it's a similar moment for the EV industry today, where India has the opportunity of becoming the EV capital of the world with such kind of a scheme coming in place and will act as a true catalyst in the next couple of years. Because in the e-bus segment, if you see on a TCO basis, we've already hit parity vis-a-vis diesel and CNG. And I think also the private market will get a huge boost with this here. And we would be looking at clearly defining things as further details are rolled out.
That question to you, Mr. Babu, in terms of the size and, 11,000 odd crore rupees split, like you said, and you told us that breakup between all the segments over 2 years, what's the trickle down effect? And do you think there's enough clarity in this version of the scheme from your perspective?
I think the clarity has been much better than the earlier schemes. The allotment numbers are given upfront, and number of buses, number of two-wheelers, number of three-wheelers, everything has been given upfront. So the clarity is much better than the earlier scheme. So this will help the industry to have much better way of dealing and getting our consumers the best. We have to understand the demand incentive is given to the customers, and OEMs are only the via media to make that happen. So the incentives, I wish the state transport undertaking for the buses, even this time there is an initiative to facilitate adoption of e-buses in private sectors. So that's going to help it. So all our customers, we will educate them with the scheme, and we will enable them to get the benefit of the scheme through our innovative products. That's where we are looking at.
Nishant, with your current offering, your product line, would you be looking to add any more models designed to meet the requirements of the PM e-business scheme? And also on the production side, right? One thing is that they'll spur up demand, but what happens on the manufacturing side of things? Do you feel like if you take up this scheme, there could be a direct impact on margins? If there is a PLI scheme, your margins have been in the 11 to 12% range. 11.6 is what I think you closed last year at out. What impact could we see on margins, and what would you do in terms of production as we see it?
So for production, we already have a capacity of almost 20,000 buses. We had set up a new facility last year. And on the margin side, already in this year's guidance which you have given, we have talked about beyond 12%. So we would maintain that. And clearly, this scheme, because as I said that every such project has a transition time of 9 months to a year, would be bringing such benefits to us in the next financial year, and where the projects will get executed. So definitely we would be looking forward to a higher capacity utilization with a clear roadmap of 2 years as we get more details going forward. And parallelly, one more point I would like to make is that on the charging side, with 72,000 charging stations being set up, I think it will reduce the end consumer range anxiety quite substantially, which would also motivate a lot of private customers to get into this segment. And parallelly, today we have about 9 platforms in our electric buses for all different segments. So we are very well equipped to address the needs of STUs or private customers.
Right. Actually, you want to come in on that one, talking about batteries. Mr. Babu, what is your reading of the situation with advancement in battery technology? And you've talked about charging solutions at Switch Mobility. Are you working towards, increasing or supporting the large-scale e-bus adoption? I'm guessing that's the first thing you're thinking about as well this morning. And what would you be looking to do?
See, already we have a product for about 25-seater to about 65-seater in the market. We are the only and unique OEM to have a double-decker electric with air condition running in the country that has about 65 seats. And we have a range between 20 to 65. Our intention in the next 3 years is to play in all the fields from 13-seater to 65-seater. As you know, we have also light commercial vehicles, which is Switch IV3 and 4. We have about 6 to 7 products in the market. We are looking at bringing every year about 2 products in the next 3 to 5 years to meet the customer requirements. And as we see, these incentives to the customers will only enable state transport undertaking and private in the bus segment, and for scrapping in the truck segment. So we are fine. Actually, the total cost of ownership break-even has come in already for both buses and light commercial vehicles without incentives. But incentives will make more adoption. Today, bus is about 3.5% adoption in electric, and LCVs are less than 1%. We are expecting this to go up, which will give a boost to the environment, to the customers, as well as to the industry.
I just want to understand, I mean, the direction is great, EV is the future, no doubt about all of that. But in terms of the private players, of course, state governments and government is incentivized to have mass transit in EV that will flow through. To move private players to electric vehicle options for buses, etc., you need to have a smaller gap in price differential. Does this policy help you achieve that? Mr. Babu, let me come to you first on that point. And I'm trying to understand that in actual terms of squeezing that price differential between what is publicly available in diesel, CNG, etc., and an EV, how much does that reduce?
Already we have supplied EV buses to our private players. We are running a large employee transport in 3 different cities. We are running a luxury transport in Mumbai with our partner Chalo. And we are running multiple applications in private, and they have been demanding incentives. In this scheme, it is said that the initiative seeks to facilitate adoption of e-buses to encourage private sector players. So there are 2 portions to it. One is OEMs have been asking government to allow private operators to come and run the buses than OEMs in the GCC model, which is the PM e-bus Seva system. So that has been allowed, and that is very welcoming that private players comes and run public transport and OEMs supply the buses and maintain it over a period of time. I wish that is the part of this scheme. And we are also looking at how private players' total cost of ownership and applications become viable. So we need to see the details of the scheme, but there is a very small adoption of private players already in EV, and we believe such scheme will only boost their confidence and look forward to adopt further in the private segment.
I'm sure, but I'm trying to understand that how much does the price difference reduce? Mr. Arya, any perspective on that? Because all that boost will actually come if a customer doesn't have to pay more to go EV.
In the previous scheme, what we had in FAME 2, it was about 40 to 50 lakhs, which was the subsidy amount, and that was the kind of price differential which we were seeing from the conventional CNG diesel buses to electric buses, if we look at the tier 1 cities. And that is why that viability gap funding kind of subsidy was decided. So I think we all look for the further details, but I feel the kind of subsidy framework would be similar in the current PM e-drive scheme. So we are all getting ready to be driven forward with the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister.
Final words, really. So Nishant, you mentioned about growth right now, but looking at the way the legs are coming up, there's also an observation that startups aren't getting the PLI incentives because they're not qualifying, but the listed OEMs are. So the 2 of you certainly benefit. So the same question to both of you, Nishant. You've given guidance for FY25, fine, but what's the kind of growth that you envisage is in store for the next 3 years, let's say, or 5 years, depending on how far you can gauge?
See, end of this decade, I feel we are looking at least 70% of the new buses being electric. And definitely the market will transition because the 8 lakh program will also kick in very soon for the whole market, for the school and other buses. And clearly, here what we will see is that India has the capacity to become the global EV manufacturing powerhouse. And that is what will happen here. Additionally, the semiconductor perspective and scale coming in, so not only for India, but for export markets, will become self-sufficient, as semiconductors are an integral part of electric vehicles with power electronics and other initiatives. Parallelly, I see that.
So Nishant, what would it mean for you? Sorry, just running out of time. What would it mean for you? Let's say you're seeing 70% Indian market, electric buses, you have 30% market share. What's the forecast of CAGR growth for JBM?
No, definitely we would look forward to over a period of next 5 to 6 years, see 40 to 50% CAGR growth over a period of next 5 to 6 years.
40 to 50% top line CAGR growth over 5 years. Wow, that's...
Yes, in our EV business, that is what we would
in the EV business. Wow, that's strong. Mahesh Babu, what would your sense be? CAGR growth for you?
I think there are plenty of orders in hand. We have about 2,000 orders as we speak in hand. We are seeing next 10 years CAGR growth of 45 to 70% depending on the scheme. If no other schemes are there, we are sure we'll get about 40% CAGR. If schemes like PM e-drive comes in and there is a push, we look at upside of 55%.
We wish you.
So that's
that's strong numbers, Tamanna. That's really strong numbers from both our experts.